Happy Wednesday evening. We're happy that you're with us tonight. My guest this evening is Sam Joel, calling in from Australia. This is his second time around with Metaverse Watchdogs. The first time we had a terrible connection. So we're thrilled, Sam, that you could come back. And we're thrilled to finally get to talk to you from givetree.io. Get on that website right now. And my trusty, reliable, friendly, understanding co-host Richard Morant calling in from Oklahoma. I'm still in California, where gas is like 6.23, but I won't talk about that.
This is always my favorite time. On the introductions is almost my favorite time of the week. Shauna always makes me feel so amazingly special. I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here? It's fantastic.
Well, the person who's
Yeah,
really
good
special,
vibes.
person who's really special in this trio tonight is really Sam. And
Hell yes.
Sam has done something amazing because on the heels of metaverse development and NFT development, he has paved the way for social good with his humanitarian influence site givetree.io. And Sam, you have been doing the interviewing circuit like there's no tomorrow. You've been
Yeah.
on more panels and more shows. Tell us a little bit about what that's been like for you.
It's been fun. I've enjoyed talking to all these amazing people all around the world in the Web3 community and just sharing the plan and the vision for Givetree, and then hearing from everyone else what their impact projects are. There's a lot of impact projects around the world that are being built into NFT collections and all different types of exciting impact stuff. So it's just been really great to learn about like what everyone's working on, and then trying to understand like what can we do with Givetree to help support that. And yeah, that's been a lot of fun. But yeah, no, I do enjoy doing the shows. They're fun.
Yeah, it's been hard to kind of keep up with your calendar because every time I turn around, it's a new platform, which is fantastic, and I've been happy to see you get the traction. But it's been very interesting to sort of watch. So I thought what we would do tonight, if you all agree, is I thought we would take the first half hour of the show and just talk about Sam's background and his journey. And then I thought we would take the second half hour from 6:30 to 7 and talk more about the details of givetree.io, especially since that's been broadcast and shared in other platforms elsewhere. We do want to hear about it, but I'm more interested tonight to learn about you as a person and where you get your humanitarian spirit from. And I want you to have the opportunity to showcase and share your journey as a message of hope for anyone who wants to get into metaverse and NFT and just thinks, I cannot do it. It's too much for me. It's nothing could be further from the truth. So if you would, Sam, take us for a little walk through the story of your life.
Oh, okay. Right. Well, I basically it was a bit of an interesting journey since 2017. This has been this interesting journey. I'd moved from Canberra to Sydney to work with a property developer, and I'd got this job and that sort of thing, and that was really good. And I'd been working very hard in that, and in January 2018, I'd had some family stuff occur. Like my father had passed away from brain tumors, and then my mother had done some strange things after that, and that had affected my brother and I quite significantly. So I thought I was fine. About a month had gone past since my father had passed away, and then I thought I was completely fine. I was just sort of continuing to work 7-day weeks with burying myself in that work, and then I started to drink a lot more, and I started drinking more, and then I started drinking a lot more, and then I started going to clubs and all this different stuff, and I started really getting some addiction problems starting to happen. And then I found myself by August 2018 so just a handful of months later, I'd gone through basically, I'd lost my job. I had severe mental health and addiction problems. I'd lost my job. I'd lost my lease. I'd sold my car and spent that, and I found myself in this really, really strange situation one morning in August 2018, where I'd sort of gone to the beach with one bag of stuff and realized I was homeless, and it's a very strange position to be in. You know, I'd gone through all of my savings was gone, so nearly $300,000 of money that I'd gone through during that time in just a few months, and yeah, and then I didn't really know what to do. It was a really strange situation. The local New South Wales government has a solution for homelessness, their version of a solution, which is 28 days in a hotel. And basically, you've got to go to the family and community offices, and you've got to get approved. And you've got to do that every 2 days. You've got to get approved. And so every 2 days, they move you around to a different hotel in a different area. Some of the hotels are pretty dodgy, not exactly the Hyatt or, you know, anything like that. Not places that are conducive to healing or rehabilitation in some cases. So anyway, once those 28 days are over, you're on your own. That's it. So however many other days are left in the year, that's up to you. So basically, I found myself living in an internet cafe in Haymarket in Sydney, and I lived there for about 10 months. So I lived there between August 2018 and June 2019. And in June 2019, I was finally able to get what's called emergency access to superannuation. So in Australia, we've got this thing called superannuation, which is it's basically 10% of your income goes to your retirement fund, which is called superannuation, and you can't access that money again until you turn 60 years old, and then you can access all of this money that you've saved over your life, this 10% through superannuation. You can then access that when you turn 60, and that becomes your retirement fund. But you can get emergency access to those funds, which are yours, and you can get emergency access to those if you can prove that there's an emergency. And so there's an interesting, I mean, you know, it's interesting how they've gone about this. In my opinion, there's opportunities for improvement, but basically the only way you can prove to the government that you are homeless and that you urgently need those funds is by being on welfare, which is called Centrelink in Australia. You've got to be on welfare for 6 months, and that's the only way you can prove to them that you're homeless. And after 6 months on welfare, you can access those funds that you urgently need. Your money you can access. So you can log on to your net bank for 6 months while you're living in an internet cafe and homeless and see your money, and you can't touch it, even though you desperately need it. And then so after 6 months, you're finally officially homeless, and then you can get that money through emergency access. And so you can access up to $10,000 for the emergency. So I accessed 6, and I rented a room in North Bondi. And that solved the room problem, which is the first problem you need to solve. You need a safe room and that sort of thing. Then you've got to solve all of the other problems in parallel. And this is quite difficult. And you know, it's not easy to just immediately adjust back to normal life. So I was still struggling with addiction and mental health for quite some time after that. So I lived in North Bondi from June 2019 until February 2020. And in February 2020, I'd moved here to South Cronulla boarding house, which is where I am now. And I was at that point drinking so much, it was like 30 standard drinks plus a day. And so in 2 months after I'd got here, so April 2020, I had a brain seizure from too much alcohol. So my body was like, nope, my body noped out. And I had a brain seizure, went to hospital for a week, nearly died. And then I got discharged from the hospital a week later. And I've been sober since then. So it's basically, this is like the 24th month sober this month. And that's, you know, so that throughout that whole process of doing, and then sort of a few months after that, I got a part-time job and that sort of thing. Started building a support network again, friends and family, that sort of thing. Well, not so much family, but definitely friends. So That helped a lot. That helped a lot. Now, throughout that whole process, all the way back when I was homeless and living in an internet cafe, is when I first started working on Gifttree as a product. So basically, Gifttree as a product started as just a simple charity directory. So you could imagine it like Yellow Pages for charity. And then it became, well, what would happen if you could donate money to those charities through the platform? And that sort of evolved as a product then. It became something else. And then it became, well, what would happen if you could donate anything to those charities through the platform? So what if you could manage all of your donations on one platform in one place and just centralize all of your donations in one place? And so I looked at all the different types of donations. So over the last 3.5 years, I've looked at over 30 different types of donations, and I've worked with now well and truly over 100 charities. And on those charities have ranged from, small local community groups to like sort of small to medium sized enterprises, up to sort of larger groups, up to sort of really large international groups. And so I've got a pretty intimate understanding now of the opportunities and the challenges that charities face across a diverse range of causes and a diverse range of regions and a diverse range of models. And then I've also looked at over 30 different types of donations over the last 3.5 to 4 years now. And so you can think about each type of donation as its own market. So if you want to volunteer for a charity, regardless of which region in the world you're in, you're going to find a unique set of products and services and suppliers that are going to help you to volunteer for charity. Whereas if you look at a different type of donation, so fundraising or workplace giving or donating blood or something like that, you're going to find a completely different set of products and services and suppliers that will help you to do that. And they're completely separate. Some charities will use some and not others, and vice versa. And, that's just how it is. So late last year, when I started looking at cryptocurrency and NFTs as a donation type and a fundraising mechanism for charities, I was very interested to see that not only did they have the lowest number of suppliers and products and services helping people to donate cryptocurrency or use NFTs to fundraise, but actually they had the highest growth curve as well. And so it's like lowest number of suppliers, highest growth curve. So over the next 5 to 10 years, what I think is going to happen is that cryptocurrency and NFTs will actually start to generate more income and resource for charities than most of the other types of donations combined. And that's, that almost needs to be repeated. Cryptocurrency and NFTs will generate more income for charities over the next 5 to 10 years than most of the other types of donations combined.
As someone who's included a charity part to my upcoming NFT drop, that doesn't surprise me as much. But knowing that numbers and that scale difference of smallest amount of people in, largest amount of money coming from, that's incredible piece of news.
It's really interesting, and it's why I pivoted the Gifttree product from this donate anything platform, which would have been a huge undertaking from a product design and development point of view, like really truly a large product if you want to manage all of your different types of donations in one place. And I pivoted the product into becoming Australia's first NFT marketplace for good. And then we started building the virtual game world, which became the first Metaverse world for good. And now we've got the Gifttree NFT marketplace and the Gifttree game world, which we've built in Unreal Engine. And we've now got what we understand to be one of the first, if not the first, NFT marketplace and Metaverse world for good in the world. And it's a very exciting prospect because what we're seeing when I talk to people all around the world is just like you, Richard. There's people building in impact into their projects. And if Gifttree can help to make that process easier for people, then that's obviously going to help speed things up a little bit. And it's going to help to, our mission is to reorganize and distribute the world's resource more effectively to the people and organizations actually solving problems. So if we can help creators to find organizations that are helping with causes they'd like to support, and then help them to donate to them more easily as a part of their Web3 projects, that's pretty cool. That's a good thing.
Yes, very, very good. I mean, what you've been able to capitalize on and what you've spotted absolutely perfectly is the fact that the amount of money that's coming into this space needs in some way to be morally balanced. And I think that a lot of people coming in, and I know for me, as I said, this is part of a big part of my project is giving back. But it does seem that a lot of creatives feel that they aren't just earning money for themselves, but they're earning money for their community. And the only way that can really be expressed at the moment is donation. So a platform that facilitates it, Sam, you've done an amazing thing.
Thank you. I'm excited as well. It's going to be really interesting. Yeah. I mean, if you think, when you hear investors like Cathie Woods, when she talks about, and you can find lots of different groups predicting this sort of thing, but when you hear them talk about how it's difficult to really value the metaverse, but their estimations are in the trillions. When you're talking about that much resource, I think it's important that there's a plan for how to organize and distribute at least a portion of that resource toward real world impact from day one, and try and bring charities on that journey with us from day one, because I think that traditionally charities are quite far behind on technology, not in all cases, but speaking generally, like they're not exactly like up to date with the newest technology in a lot of cases. And I think there's a real opportunity to help bring them along. And I think it's really interesting that creators are going to be, sort of driving that in this case, which is an exciting new development that's made possible by Web3, which is great.
Well, I think here's the fun part of it, where before creatives have still been the drive of the change, it's just been piggybacked by bean counters. The entrepreneurs are some of the most creative people on the planet. I think the kind of divulging of that goes forward, but now creatives have a way to be able to own the decision-making process of what happens to their art and how it's utilized. And I think that changes the ball game dramatically, because creatives by personality, by type, are going to be open and caring and want to be able to share the wealth that they generate. So I think you've cottoned onto something that allows a pipeline for a feeling that is pre-existing, but the knowledge of how, where, and why. And I'm going to say this again because I've just been through this with sorting out foundations and trying to find the correct people to donate to. And it's a very interesting process, because you start speaking to a foundation and you go, okay, we're doing an NFT drop, and they look at you and they go, huh?
What? Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like, okay, so now what? Now I have to go to the foundation. I have to first convince them. I have to first convince them that I am real.
Yeah.
Then I have to convince them that NFTs are real. Then I have to convince them that the drop that I'm doing is going to make the money that I think it is going to make.
Which actually,
and then they tell you no.
Right.
Anyway.
Which actually speaks in a way to what I really want to get to with Sam. And that is, first of all, both Richard and I are fully behind you in your sobriety. That is a fantastic and amazing accomplishment. 24 months. God bless you. Stay strong. Keep at it, one day at a time. It's just so impressive.
Sam, and I want to add to that impressiveness. Just a bit of background here for you and me. I did 16 years on cruise ships. The first 10 of those, I was in my 20s. I'm just going to leave that where it is. And you can fill in the blanks.
Yeah, I've heard you loud and clear. I see.
Yeah. I stopped drinking 10 years ago.
Yes. So the thing
So
is, though, I don't
well
want.
done. It's a hard path.
It's a
Well
hard
done.
walk to road, but it's well worth it.
Yeah.
Uh, but I don't want to gloss over the theme of loss. Because in addition to having this tremendous loss that you experienced personally with your family members, and then the loss of your internal security, am I okay? Am I thinking okay? How am I feeling okay? Am I okay just in my physical being? Am I okay financially? Am I okay mentally? All of that is a tremendous loss. Um, I'm curious about, there's a couple of directions I'd like to go in. First, I'm curious about what you how you perceive loss now that you've walked through so much of it personally. When you hear of people losing assets in the crypto and the blockchain NFT metaverse space, what's your perspective of that as you look at loss from the other side of loss?
Okay, interesting question. So comparing just loss generally, and then as it applies to loss in the
People that are
loss of
going through it,
crypto,
and yes,
like,
yeah.
oh no, I've sent this to the wrong address, it's gone. Yeah,
Or
yeah,
people who
loss.
wake up to an account that they thought they had X in, and in the morning they have Y in it. And it's been because of a rug pull, or it's been because of a fraudulent site, or it's been because of, uh, a hacker came in the middle of the night, whatever the case may be, which is very common in this beginning space as we walk through it. So there are people that, even though we have a subset of people that are experiencing tremendous gains. Richard and I were talking about his cousin actually has been very fortunate. There are also people that are experiencing tremendous losses, and so from someone who has really walked the depths of that, what's your perspective as you look at it now?
Interesting. I think maybe if you start speaking generally about loss as it applies to us all, in regards to sort of family members or friends or something in your personal life. So not speaking about crypto, but speaking just more generally about life and loss. I think that most of us are more fragile than we realize. You are closer to a reality that you have never imagined than you could possibly realize. And what happens is that in most of our lives, we are reliant on people around us, and those people provide for us a certain level of security. And we live our lives based on structure and process that is created by those people. So when you remove those people, you lose that structure and process that you've been living your life by. Now, you might have been completely ignorant that you were living your life by something. And it's like when you hear an air conditioner, but you don't really hear it until it turns off. And then you go,
Mm,
oh, that noise was annoying me. It's like it's the same exact thing. You don't realize that you're living your life and it's actually reliant on stuff and things that people around you are doing. And you don't even realize that. You're completely ignorant of that. And you're blissfully ignorant of that. But you become acutely aware of that when those people are removed from your life, and all of a sudden you're now having to do things that you were not previously doing. And if you're trying to do those from a place where you're not thinking properly or something, that makes it exponentially harder.
mhm.
So that's speaking generally about loss and how it it sort of creates awareness for you around the things that you need to be doing for yourself. So that creates a level of independence and responsibility that you need to become more mature. You need to take responsibility. If you've lost money in crypto, what did you do wrong? Did you get hacked? Why did you get hacked? Did you have your securities set up properly? Did you have it? Was there anything you could have done differently that would have stopped that loss from occurring?
So
There probably is.
that personal accountability. So if I were to say to you, Sam, I lost, $2,000 last night, I'm down 2 grand. Would your perspective now, I'm just curious, and there's no right or wrong answer, but would your perspective now, do you think, would you be more empathetic because you had walked through loss, or would you be less because now you have the perspective of, well, shame on you, you should have done your due diligence, did you know what you were doing in the first place? What's your perspective now?
I think that if we're talking about cryptocurrencies and crypto wallets, what we're really talking about is a contrast between a traditional banking system and a new banking system. So a traditional banking system like your local bank using fiat currencies, if something goes wrong, that's their responsibility because they're the bank. If there's a fraudulent transaction, you go to them and you say, "Oh, fix this. I didn't do this." So you don't have responsibility for your money because you've shifted that responsibility to them. Okay? So you see the contrast. So when you're talking about Web3, cryptocurrency, and crypto wallets, it's now your responsibility to look after that, your personal responsibility. There's no one to blame except yourself because it's yours. You're the bank. You're your own bank. You need to understand that.
All right, let me go to the next theme, which is the theme, and we have 4 minutes to walk through this theme before we reach the half hour. Unbelievably, it's gone by so fast. Is I don't want to also gloss over this theme of transformation, right? It's one thing to be one day walking on the dark side of the street, and on the next day be walking on the sunny side of the street. But the piece that people don't see is that that required a tremendous amount of personal transformation. So I'm wondering if you can speak to us and to anyone listening tonight as hopefully a beacon of hope and faith and courage as to what it was for you, other than maybe the addressing of the addiction issues, what it was for you that shifted that thinking and that mode of operating from, hey, the dark side of the street is not where I want to be anymore. And not only do I want to walk on the bright side of the street, but I want to walk on the bright side of the street and I want to do something for other people. That's the piece I really want to latch on to. What was it? Was it personal drive? Did somebody say something to you? What happened that caused that light switch to go on?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. It's no one thing. It's like a combination of different things, right? So for me in my situation, it was a series of events over a long period of time before I got to where I am now, and it was just one thing at a time. Like you have to solve lots and lots of different problems in parallel, and you're only one person, so you're not going to solve them all by yourself at once. You need other people to help you get through that. And you don't just need other people to help you get through that, you need money to help you get through that. You need support and resource. And that's really what it comes down to. You can't expect someone to get themselves from the dark side of the street to the light side of the street in a
Without some
day
utility.
without any help
Yeah.
at all. That's a very difficult thing to do, and most people won't be able to do that. I would not have been able to do that. It took the emergency acts. I look at it like this from my own personal subjective opinion on my own personal journey, but I needed that large lump sum of money from the emergency access to superannuation in order to solve the first problem, which was renting a room. The motivation to want to do that came from me having my project Givetree and wanting to do Givetree. So I had something that was giving me personal hope and motivation to want to do that. So in order to solve that problem, in order to move from the dark side to the light side, I had to want to do that. That was a big thing.
So
And so
are you saying the idea for GiveTree.io came before you actually were in a financial place to make it happen?
100%. I started working on Givetree when I was in the internet cafe just as a charity directory.
And was that by factor of, and I've got to have something constructive to do with my time?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
suppose it. I suppose it was. I suppose it was. I think that a lot of the day and night, in for me personally, when I was in that internet cafe, there was no like. It's not a normal day. It's not. It's not. I'm gonna wake up at 7 a.m. and get ready for work and have a coffee on the way and like be at work on time, and then do what I've got to, maybe do some stuff at lunch, and then head home at 5 p.m. and that'll be all good. Go back to my home. It's not like that. It's completely different. You're not thinking properly. You're mentally ill, and you're struggling with substance abuse. Any money that comes through from welfare is straight away spent on like whatever addiction you've got, and you're literally living your life as in like this weird sort of fuzzy, like I don't know if that's the right word, but like you've got this, like your brain has got this like weird kind of like mist on it. I don't know how to explain it, but you're just not thinking clearly. You're not. It's very difficult to empathize with if you have not been through it yourself. And I mean, obviously, I'm only speaking about homelessness here and mental health and addiction from my personal journey. I'm not speaking, about all of these different causes and all of the different unique circumstances for each of the causes. But yeah. Oh, Sean, I think you're on mute at the moment.
It's super constructive though, Sam, because it means that you can be one can occupy two states at one point in time. You can be in the state of needing and deserving help, whether it's mental help, financial help, social help, whatever the case may be, and also be occupying a state of mind where you have that creativity that's functioning fully and giving you really solid, great ideas. I mean, you could have created anything, Sam. It could have been flowers on the side of the road. It could have been a music piece. For you to specifically go after, I want to go in the foundational, humanitarian, social good space. I mean, that maybe, I think all of our experience really does drive what our future is. I don't know. What do you think, Richard? I just find it so amazing that he would choose that of all things to do.
There's a part of me amazed, and there's a part of me that thinks of the inevitability of it, because
Right.
someone with a heart to give, to be in the place to experience what people who need to be given to,
Right.
you know what I mean? That foundational bit of, in my head, I'm trying to imagine and experience what that 6 months must have been like to get from the 28 days to the 6 months of welfare.
Yeah.
And not just that, but doing those 28 days with a goal and a drive out the other end. It's incredible journey, and the learning, and not just the journey of what it was, but the introspection into self that you have to make when you're alone by yourself with nothing but your head.
Yes.
That's an incredible amount of growth.
Who am I at my core?
Mhm.
What am I at my core? But I want to say too, Sam, because I don't want to quote unquote let you off the hook, for lack of a better word. But you explained to us you were very authentic and transparent in saying, "Hey, I had this bucket of money, and I went through it, and then I didn't have that bucket of money." There had to be points along that way, and the reason I'm asking you this is because there's a school of thought out there that cryptos, NFTs specifically, are very similar to gambling. And so I'm wondering, as you had this bucket of money, you had to have known, hey, it's dwindling. I'm now down to 200, and I'm now down to 100, I'm now down to 50, I'm now down to $5. Why do you think it was that maybe you wish in retrospect as you look back that you could have maybe done, or could you have done anything that when you were at the 200 mark and the 100 mark and the 50 mark that you could have stopped the loss, stopped the bleeding? Was there anything you could have done at that point, or was it too far gone?
Oh, it's like once you're at that point, if you're struggling with addiction and mental health, you're not thinking. I really want to stress this point. You're not thinking logically about financial decisions. You're not making financial decisions like you would if you were not struggling with mental health and addiction problems. Like, if anything, your spending gets worse. Like, you yeah, no, you don't, you're just not thinking in that way. That is the easiest way to say it. You are not thinking, oh, I'm going to spend this money responsibly. Oh, it's running out. I should probably slow down. That's not how it works. You start doubling down almost, and you kind of get a little bit of FOMO, and maybe you go, you go a
Mhm.
few, you sort of resolve to yourself, oh, I've got to stop, and then you stop for a few hours, and then all of a sudden you start thinking about it again, and then you're straight back on it. And you know, if you are successful in going a few days without it, you tend to hit, you might relapse, you might come
Yeah.
back to it harder. You've got to understand, everyone listening needs to understand that an addiction and mental health problem, if you haven't solved the underlying reason that's initially occurred, then it's going to continue to occur. And until you get help, which you may or may not get, it's going to possibly get worse, not better.
Yeah. Progressive
And
disease.
you'll spend your money. Your money will go, and then you'll borrow money. And that's what will happen.
I heard a fascinating, sorry, Serena, I heard a fascinating research paper that stated basically that addiction is a symptom, it's not a disease. There's been something that started it. There's been a break. There's been something that started the disease. And until you fix that, the symptom of the addiction is not going to stop until... How does that analogy work with your experience, Sam?
I think it works. I think something triggers there's usually a causal event or a series of causal events that cause you to start changing your behavior and changing the way you're thinking and changing your actions, and you land in a very different life pretty quickly.
So for those that think that crypto is very similar to gambling, and whether or not one agrees with that or does not agree with that, given that you experience this sort of financial loss, do you have the thinking that as a whole, as we set up the foundational framework within which NFTs and the metaverse should develop, do you have the thinking that we need to establish stop gaps? So, very similar to the stock market, where one can do a stop loss so that you don't lose all of your assets. Do we need stop gaps in NFT and crypto, even in a decentralized financial model, so that people aren't left at the end of the day suddenly with an empty pot of gold?
Okay, here's how I would say that anyone who thinks that cryptocurrency is gambling is not understanding the fundamental concept of the technology. So it is a type of money. Okay, so as with any type of money, you can gamble with it. That's one use for it. But that doesn't make the money gambling. That makes you a gambler. You're taking the money and you're spending it, and there is a risk you won't get it back. You're gambling. That doesn't make what you're gambling with gambling. That makes you a gambler, and that makes you spending the money on gambling. That's how that works. Cryptocurrency is not gambling. It's a technology. It's a monetary technology, and it's a better technology than fiat currency.
I like the way of going better, but then the question then becomes better for whom? Because the fiat system is working great for a whole lot of people.
Well,
So,
I don't know if I agree with that, but go ahead.
no, there's a lot of rich people around who've made a lot of money from banks. There's a lot of bank CEOs. There's a lot of people in that industry and in that sector that have made a lot of money from this side for a long time. I think, Sam, one of my favorite things that you've just spoken about in this period is people taking accountability for their own actions and realizing that, yes, you have to learn to be able to manage yourself. I mean, particularly, I think a lot of things where we're often so focused on the individual rights, individual securities, and so on. But as an individual, we keep trying to pass responsibility off to other places. Like, I don't have to worry about my health because I have health insurance. I don't have to
My car,
worry.
I have car insurance. Yeah.
I don't have to worry about my car. I have car insurance. I don't even have to worry about my bank. I have, again, bank insurance in placing for these things. So therefore, even though I have this sense of freedom, I'm actually, I've passed off all my responsibilities so that I'm not actually taking care of myself.
Mm.
So, and I think we've become, particularly, I'm going to use this as one of those things as those first world problems. I come from Africa, where there's a whole different sense of living and how decisions get made. Whereas over here, there's subtle but distinct differences to that. But now people are starting to having to take full accountability for their decisions and for their assets.
Mm.
Only your accountability. You're the only one that can stuff it up. And now all of a sudden people are saying, wait, what is this devil thing that we wanted? And now we have it, and now it's costing us money. Like, wait, hold on. It's not costing you money. You're costing you money because you haven't treated it properly.
But here again, this is another point where the idea of this social good, giving, right? The concept of giving, givetree.io, is so absolutely fantastic because it speaks to a completely different culture of communication and interrelation and exchange that Richard gives of his time every Wednesday night, and he doesn't get much in return except for my smiling face. And I give to the
Which is
people
more than worth it.
and I give to the people who come on to share and showcase their projects, time, and hopefully an audience. And Sam, you have given so much of your own inner self in your project that this giving, this communal, we're all in it kind of together, is a beautiful thing about crypto. So I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea that I'm anti crypto. I'm certainly not. Tell us more about the giving and humanitarian and social good concept and what you talked a little bit about how it's centralized right now. Bad word, centralized, but how it's focused right now in Australia. But obviously, this is a concept that is an international concept, right? So, are you hoping that GiveTree.io will grow to encompass the whole of nonprofit? Would you like to see? Tell me a little bit about what you're thinking in the future.
Yeah, so when we launch the products, we will actually be launching global from day one products. A lot of our customers and partners, we've got well and truly over 100 global partnerships with charities, DAOs, profit for purpose groups, creators, blockchains, wallets, cryptocurrencies, game studios, game publishers, news groups, media groups. There's no shortage of partnerships for us all around the world, everywhere from Asia to Europe to the Americas. I mean, it's like, yeah, there's no worries there. This is Web3. What's really cool about Web3 is that it is very much a global movement. Like it is like a global revolution that's occurring right now. And I think that a lot of the established interests in the centralized financial systems are currently trying to rein that back in as much as possible, as quickly as possible. But I think that what the decentralized technology has proven is that there's a global demand and motivation that underpins that demand to have a better money for everyone that is not controlled by small groups of people, but is instead controlled by each individual in a decentralized way. And in that way, is less prone to influence from small groups of people that may or may not have your best interests at heart. And I think that what the technology has proven already is that it's quite capable of withstanding huge amounts of pressure from those small groups. And no matter what they seem to throw at it, it continues moving forward and picking up more speed. And as people start to understand the technology more and more over time, I believe it's going to continue doing that. And globally, every single country that has been ravaged by predatory financial products, such as Argentina, are starting to benefit from the new technology in new and exciting ways. And I think that is a really good thing. And I hope it continues. If you want to talk about the impact benefits, you can look toward the recent situation with Russia and Ukraine and whatever you make of that. One thing is clear is that the technology was showcased on a global stage for everyone to see just how quickly and effectively money, new, proper, real money, cryptocurrency, how quickly that resource can be organized and distributed. And that's very interesting. You didn't need Swift codes to send that cryptocurrency. You didn't need to, So that's a good example of impact and the new technology to sort of support and facilitate impact globally.
I wonder if there's a thin line in the ethics there, right? Because the motivation is to help people that are suffering under oppression and invasion. But there's a thin line between um, giving crypto in an environment where they may not be able to, and we've talked about this before many times, liquidate the funds and actually use them. We've talked about the disparity that exists between crypto creators who have made billions of dollars in crypto and there's no accountability for that money. So there is an ethics question, but there's so much more I want to get with you tonight on. I'm curious as to, you mentioned that you built on the foundation of the Unreal Engine, and I'm curious as to whether or not Unreal reached out to support you in any way.
Unreal Engine and that team, we were planning on applying for a mega grant, and if there is anyone from Unreal who would like to get in touch, we are more than happy to have that conversation. We love Unreal Engine. We're very, very big fans of Unreal
It's
Engine.
beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
Fantastic. It's to me, it's one of the not utilized, but it's one of the unsung heroes that I think we haven't heard the end of. Decentraland and Sandbox and all of these have come out. There's this little thing in the back of my head that's going, wait for it, just wait for it. There's something coming from Epic Games.
I think I can hear it. I think I can hear it. I can hear that.
Yeah. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but I think they're sitting on something that they haven't shown yet.
I think it's safe to say it will be epic. Whatever
yes.
Let's say we do have philanthropic people out there, and they do want to give, and they want to participate in this giving economy of social good. How can they best get involved with GiveTree.io?
Yeah, so actually, in just a few hours' time, we're about to launch there's a crowdfunding platform here in Australia called Birchal.com that enables you to actually invest in really cool companies. And so in just a few hours' time, if you want to actually own a part of GiveTree, you'll be able to. We'll be launching the Birchal.com, and I can send a link afterward. But it's spelled BIRCHAL, yeah, and then Birchal. Anyway, so we'll be launching that, and anyone who wants to invest in GiveTree will have the opportunity to do that. That'll give thousands of people the opportunity to invest in GiveTree for as little as $50. You can become an owner of GiveTree, and then we will then work toward the DAO model in the future, and having the GiveTree community-owned DAO, and then the plan would be to become an open source project and do a community exit into that DAO. But it's just a matter of working toward establishing that DAO and that framework properly and legally here in Australia as well.
So to participate as a investor that's fiat does not require crypto at this point in time.
Yeah, the beauty of the Birchal campaign is it makes it really accessible to non-native to Web3. If you're just, you don't know anything about Web3, that's completely fine. If you're just interested in Web3, you don't need a crypto wallet or a cryptocurrency to buy the shares through Birchal.com. You can literally just go to Birchal.com and use your credit card to buy the shares. That's it. Easy as.
And then I want to ask you too, Richard, I'm sorry I'm hogging all the time tonight, but I have so many questions. We've come across some gray areas before, and this possibly could be one as well. Richard actually alluded to it earlier that he had to go out on a search for reliable, proven, competent companies that he is getting ready to do some donation and philanthropic work with. So the question comes in, how does one qualify what is good, right? So, for example, let's say for the sake of just having something as an object to discuss, let's say that I'm a pet lover and I think that all the money in the world should go towards rescuing every stray that exists. And I want that to be my focus of good. But Richard is a healthcare lover and he wants the children at St. Jude's Hospital and their families all to have continuous uh, continuity of care without any interruption, and he wants research to go on, and he believes that people outweigh pets. So we now have this conflict of value of good. How are you, as the founder of GiveTree, reconciling the hierarchy of what causes deserve and warrant your attention and your embrace?
Oh, that's an easy one. We're not making any top-down decisions on what's good and what's bad. So, if Richard is interested to support one type of cause, and you're interested, Shauna, to support another type of cause, that's completely fine. If you'd like to bring a charity to GiveTree, there's no barriers to entry for them. There's no cost. It's free for them to join. So you can bring them to GiveTree, and then you can fundraise for them. No worries. And Richard can do the same with a completely separate charity or profit for purpose group or DAO or local
I'm pretty
community
sure we'll be having more conversations about that offline.
Yeah, and
And then
I
how
think
did the
I think that
people?
yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say you can look at different platforms, like for example, GiveWell, and they invest massive amounts of time and resource into to really analyzing the effectiveness of different charity groups, and that's really helpful for some types of donors. That's what they're looking for. They want to know. That's how they subjectively define what's good. But defining what's good is very subjective. So as you know, just because a charity is let's use an example. This is the easiest way of making my point. Let's use an example. When I was homeless, I really don't care if the charity who's just helped me with some food takes 80% admin fee. I don't care about that at all because they're the only ones that are there right then and there that are helping me. So does it really matter how much the admin fee a charity takes is? I don't know. To some people it does. I'm not going to decide if it does or not because I personally know that 20% is still occurring. That 20% of impact is still occurring and they're making that happen. Now, if it's like 80% admin fee, maybe there's a question, why? Is there anything that charity can be doing differently that might make that lower? Probably. What's the plan to encourage them to do that? What's the plan to help them to do that? Do they need resource to do that? How do we get them resource to do that? What's going to make them do that?
Again, you're looking at another one of crossing from the dark space into the light space. We're just now doing it with charities.
Yeah. So I think what's really interesting about the next 5 to 10 years is going to be the impact of DAOs on this space. I'm very excited because I think what DAOs are going to do is they're going to challenge charities for the right to solve problems.
That's very well put.
They're going to be very effective at organizing and distributing resource, but what DAOs are going to struggle with is they're not going to have the structure and process that established charities have. Okay, so eventually a DAO can organize a whole bunch of resource and set up a series of smart contracts to distribute that resource automatically toward an impact goal. But eventually that money and that resource has to be used to actually do something. Somebody's got to have boots on the ground. Somebody's got to be cooking the food in that kitchen. Somebody's got to be dropping off that aid. That's the role that the charities have to play still. They've got the structure and process. They've got that person in the kitchen. They've got that person dropping off the aid. They've got all the logistics in place. That is what the DAOs don't have. Whereas the DAOs have what the charities don't have, a more effective way of organizing,
Yeah.
raising, and distributing resource. So what's going to happen? A collaboration, of course. The best case scenario is both of them working together, because then you solve a huge problem that people have with charities, whereas there's a few big core sort of pillar problems that people have with charities, but one of the big one is that they don't like how much money that the charities receive that they then reinvest back into fundraising.
Right.
They don't like that. People don't want them spending money on fundraising. They want them spending money on what they were set up to do, which is solve problems that the people donating care about. So what a DAO enables a charity to do, if the charity wants to, they've got to want to, okay? But if they want to, what a DAO that's really good at raising and organizing and distributing resource toward an impact goal will do is it will enable a charity to change their business model. They can transition their structures and processes into a new type of business model, so they can design different types of job roles for their employees. They can employ different types of people to do different tasks. And some of those tasks might include working with DAOs to reduce their costs of fundraising and increase the amount of income for them at a lower cost that can then be put towards solving problems more effectively. So now, instead of employing a team of 20 fundraisers, now they can employ a team of 20 boots on the ground to go and solve the problem. So that's a good example of the relationship over the next 5 to 10 years that's going to evolve between DAOs and charities. Because DAOs are going to realize, oh shit, we don't have anyone to do this. And charities are going to realize, like, oh man, DAOs are really good at raising money. We should get some of that money.
So one of the beautiful things about blockchain is we have authenticated, trackable transactions. And in addition to people being concerned about their donation going to admin fee, I would say the second greatest concern is that the donation reaches the people that it was intended to reach to begin with. And especially in this new space of NFT and social good, there's a great concern about, well, do I really know who I'm working with? And is the money really going to get there? And is it really going as intended? What are you able to do to kind of counteract those kind of concerns?
Yeah, I think that charities have a responsibility to communicate what the funds are for. And what Web3 technology is going to enable them to do is communicate that information more effectively. And that's it. They have an opportunity to communicate more effectively with this technology. They just have to use it.
And there lies the rub.
There it is. There it is.
And I'm whittled down to one sentence. There we go. It is fun
easier said than done.
But it is fun to see the awareness in these things starting to come up, and that as the popularity and as the knowledge of NFTs and smart contracts, more than NFTs, actually starts getting realized with people who are trying to do the right thing, who have been battling to see the pathway, giving them now a true option to be able to do it and have it tracked and have it in an open source ways. I think it's also going to help increase the amount of people giving.
I think so. I think so. I agree. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun dynamic because there's so many people out there in the world that do want to give, they just don't know how.
But I wonder about certain communities. I'm thinking of one in particular, which I will not name, which has this sort of culture of you buy in, and then once you buy in, you gain access to the get. Recently, you got tokens, and then you got access to individuals, and then you got chocolates delivered to your door, whatever it was. There's this sort of culture of, I buy in, I'm now a member, I'm a country clubber member, and I'm going to sit back and I'm going to get residual on my return on investment. I'm going to get all this stuff because I believed and I bought in the beginning. That to me is counterintuitive to a program that facilitates the give. Would you agree with that?
There's lots of different use cases for NFTs. Some are investment based and others are not. That's just the way to look at it.
Again, I
Some
think
and
you're
some,
right.
of- some,
That's,
of- and some of those investments are very, very risky short-term speculative investments that
Yes.
most people should probably not do. And then
I
they
think,
should not blame cryptocurrency
Right, as a
as the
cause.
problem. They should blame
Right.
themselves.
yeah, I just wanted to support again exactly what you're saying. That don't blame the tool
What
for
were you going to
your
say,
own
Richard?
inadequacies.
Yeah, like if you're going to go and make a speculative financial investment in any market, take that risk on board as your responsibility. Don't blame the technology you're using to make that speculative financial investment.
I mean, how many
That's
people
just,
blame Wall Street?
yeah.
Same
Well,
thing.
yeah. There's a lot of value in looking at what those guys are doing and understanding like those sorts of problems that have occurred on Wall Street in America have affected the rest of the world because the American dollar has been the reserve currency. And so those guys and girls who've made those decisions in those organizations, they've affected everyone globally because of how the current financial system works. So the beauty of cryptocurrency is that it solves a lot of those problems. The decentralized cryptocurrency, that is, not a centralized reserve bank currency. We're talking about a decentralized cryptocurrency. It solves those sorts of problems.
I think it doesn't fully solve them because the one problem that it doesn't solve is how do we transition from fiat to crypto without there being dramatic amounts of people falling off the end and not being able to keep up with the transition, particularly the old.
Uh,
I mean, I mean,
uh,
my
yeah,
parents are,
I think it's I think
sorry.
it's the fiat problems that are currently occurring are going to get much worse. So it's really just which is more painful, and fiat is going to become more painful.
I agree. I just hope that we can move enough people who are currently dependent on fiat over to the crypto infrastructure without a dramatic loss. Because if we're just swinging wealth from one group to the other, we're not actually solving a wealth distribution.
Right.
We're just allowing the gap to form between different people.
But you have to show them it's going to work. You have to have the model of it can work. People can make money. You can have commerce on this. You can have exchange. You can invest and win. You have to show them it's going to work. With that, I'm so sorry that we're at our time. I would like to close, Sam, by saying that anybody listening who is in a philanthropic state of mind, Sam did this GiveTree.io with less than $10,000 to his name at the time. He has been it's been a joy to talk with you tonight. Very inspirational story. If I wonder to myself what you could have done with a small gift of 100,000, what you could have done with that. So if anyone is listening, whether or not they want to donate to Sam's cause and his product through crypto or fiat, I'm sure he'll take it either way. Also, there's a lot of real life need in the world. This week we celebrated World Water Week, where over 700 million people are without clean drinking water. We talked about the animals, we talked about the children, we talked about the medical need, we talked about those with addiction and mental health issues. Please give. Giving is a simple act of kindness and love. And if you need help giving through the digital space, please do consider GiveTree.io, which I think you'll find a very excellent utility to do that. Is there anything you'd like to say before we close, Sam and Richard?
I would just say that the GiveTree products are scheduled to launch in that sort of April-May period of time at the moment. So when you go to GiveTree.io, it is just an information-based website at the moment. There's videos and there's information about GiveTree, and you can join our Discord community. But just to sort of caveat with it, the products have not actually launched yet, but they are very nearly ready for launch, which is very exciting.
Very exciting. And
Sam,
Richard,
congratulations.
yeah,
There's not a lot of people who can pull through what you've done
yeah.
and actually do it.
And you know what amazes me,
So,
Yeah,
Richard,
thank
is
you.
he went through all that, right? He went through all that. He pulled himself up, but then, wham, bam, thank you, man. He turned around, and it was COVID.
mhm.
So talk about like life likes to hit you when you're down, kind of thing sometimes.
And
So
you've still
good
done it.
on you.
So
Yeah,
your drive, your ambition, your will to pull through in hard places is something that everyone should see that it's doable.
it's doable.
So well done. You have every piece of my admiration and support that I can lend, and I cannot wait to help and see
Yeah,
more of where you take this. Congratulations. Well done.
absolutely. Well said. Well said. Yes, and getting more nonprofits to jump on ship. That's what we
There we go.
want and need. Yes. So, Sam, thank you. Have a beautiful evening. Richard will close us out, and just do stay for a few minutes while he does, and we will see everybody next week. Thank you so
Cheers all.
much.